Dr. Alex Stedmon, Alex Stedmon. I used to find it quite exciting, I think. Sort of technology, some sort of playing with my bike and things, my toys. I always used to be quite interested in sort of what made them work, sort of behind the scenes. So I guess I've kind of always had that kind of curiosity to know how things work, and really science is kind of the thing that sort of explains that, I guess. I think my journey into becoming a scientist and getting into engineering was probably quite by accident. Although I had this interest in how things worked, I didn't ever think I'd become an engineer or anything like that. And so I studied psychology, I studied sociology, and very much the sort of softer sort of subjects. And it was only when I kind of realised there was a little bit of a bridge between psychology and engineering in this world of ergonomics that my kind of professional interest actually emerged through that. So it's probably through university and quite by accident, but feeding on that germ of an idea from when I was a little kid, really. Okay, well, I'm currently a lecturer in human factors and ergonomics here at the university. So that's my kind of daily job, that I'm teaching, lecturing, running group projects, supervising students who are based at the university or away and doing distance learning courses. Alongside that, I'm doing research into different areas, working on big European projects, which is part of our research group, but also developing a kind of personal research interest, which is through the university, which is the motorcycle ergonomics. So the idea that we can actually understand the way that people and technology interact, and for motorcycling, very little of this is understood, so that there's a lot of research to be done to understand the issues of riding motorbikes safely and the kit that people use on motorbikes. I think the interesting thing about working at the university, and one of the best things about the job, is that it's quite an applied nature that we work in. So we work with companies, we work with real people at the end of the day. And so you can actually see sometimes, most of the time, your work actually being used in some kind of way for you know, a greater good, if you like. Personally, I also really enjoy the teaching side, actually imparting knowledge to students and developing in them the skills to go off and inquire for themselves in various ways which they want to. So that for me is really satisfying when I teach a course well, when I get good feedback, but also just very much the applied nature of actually doing something worthwhile, I think. Probably the worst thing is students who keep knocking on the door and asking silly questions. I don't mind anybody knocking on my door at any time, but if somebody's asking me for the third time the same question, you know, it's quite nice if they actually learn something and actually sort it out for themselves after a while. Well, I'm usually quite approachable. I think everybody would say I'm fairly approachable. I probably get less and less patient with people the more and more times they come back and ask the same question.
Fair enough. I'm like that too.
Okay, so over the next 12 months, I've got quite an exciting time, but quite a big challenge to try and achieve. Having won some money through the university to develop my research, I'm going to be building a motorbike simulator. Now, the idea of that is to build something that actually works and do some research within 12 months. So that's kind of got to get done. Alongside that, I've also just got a research group of students to do a project, and they're building the next generation of the simulator. Something that's a little bit more dynamic, more interactive with the rider. So hopefully that will hopefully sort of, yeah.
That's good. What is a motorbike simulator?
Okay, well, the idea of a motorbike simulator is something which you can sit on and ride in a fairly realistic kind of way. There are going to be certain limitations, but feel like you're actually riding a motorbike, although you're not actually out on the road. So it's very much like a car simulator or an aircraft simulator. You're taking the sort of important aspects of riding or riding the bike, or flying the aircraft or driving the car, but putting them in a fairly safe environment so that we can actually do research that then generalises out to the main road users without actually putting them in dangerous situations. I think I'd really like to see motorcycle ergonomics become a kind of established sort of area of research. At the moment, there's very little work out there. We know very little about what impacts on a rider when they're riding a motorbike from a scientific point of view. A lot of the information out there is very anecdotal, or it's very sort of journalistic from the magazines. So I'd really like to establish something that sort of gives us a sort of academic basis to understanding some of the issues. No, I'm actually a fairly keen motorcyclist myself. I guess I started riding when I was 19 years old, so that's 20 odd years ago. Had a little bit of a break in the middle when I was studying at university and drove a car. But in the last sort of 4 or 5 years, I've got back into motorcycling, taken my advanced test, and in a way, kind of seen how much more the road system's changed in the last 20 years from when I first started riding to now, now that I'm riding a motorbike again. Right, that's interesting. I think when we meet other scientists, I think we each have a kind of area of expertise that sometimes it's quite difficult to communicate between. And so I think one of the challenges of science is really to communicate between different groups, not only within science but also outside of it to other people as well. So sometimes at a coffee break you can get people talking quite technically about things that I know nothing about, but usually I'm the first person to put my hand up and say, I don't really understand what you're talking about. Can you explain it in simpler terms? Because I think at all different levels of science and within different groups of scientists, you're going to have different ways of communicating those ideas. Sure, yeah, I'm pretty much the same at home as I am here. I'm fairly relaxed and easygoing. I met my wife about sort of 4 or 5 years ago. We've been married about 3 years, I think. We're doing up a house that we bought we bought thinking would be okay, and it's now turned out to be a bit of a money pit. But apart from that, and we spend a lot of time socialising. We spend a lot of time away, going around, you know, friends and family parties. I'm not too old to party just yet, and then when I haven't got anything else like that to do, I get on my motorbike and go for a ride. I'd probably be a hospital porter because that's what I was doing before I came to university. I was a mature student. I kind of didn't quite know what I wanted to do after doing A-levels. Spent about 2 years working in a hospital as a porter. I think if I'd never really sort of moved on from there, I'd probably still be there. But I'd probably, a little bit more seriously, I think I'd probably be doing something involved with motorcycling because it's more of an interest and a passion I have. So I think I'll be doing something in that kind of area.